What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. I got the one and only Mr. Robert on tonight. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, Devin. Thanks for having me on, bud.
It's
Appreciate
been a
it.
couple of months, so good to see you back.
Yeah, when was it? Was it December, I think, was the last
I
time?
think so.
Or maybe
I
we
don't know,
did it. Yeah, I don't know
couple
either.
2 months-ish, something like
Yeah.
that.
But I
It's been a
like the
while.
regularity. Let's keep up the regularity. It's
Yeah,
fun.
every month or two, I'll sneak you in.
Yeah, there we
So,
go.
how have you been doing?
Real good, man. Real good.
Mm-hmm.
Things at Bulk Resupply are cruising along. Running the Facebook group. I think we hit 25,000 members. Yeah,
Nice.
25, 26, something like that.
That's huge. That's
Or maybe
awesome.
29. But anyway, we had a big milestone recently,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot of people to moderate, especially. But it's fun, you get to like interact with like every level of hobbyist, so it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of bring me back to my roots a little bit, having conversations that I haven't had in years and helping people out. So it feels good to just kind of be the front lines again.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
got a fish tank, so finally
That's
came
exciting.
yesterday. Yeah, I came yesterday, so I have a Innovative Marine 50-gallon. It's the INT model, so the internal overflow.
Nice.
I wanted the EXT, but can't be bigger or can't be a chooser.
That's fair.
Yeah. However, I think it'll be more interesting from the standpoint of like being able to get around like plumbing quirks and show people how
Mm-hmm.
to do it that way, because the EXT is a little bit easier to plumb, so
Yep.
I have this big master plan to plumb multiple displays off like a big
Ooh.
sump. Yeah, so
Nice.
that's sort of the end game. I don't want to make any promises because I'm really not sure how far I can take it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the idea is, one gnarly, huge, big sump, and then we'll plumb multiple displays off of it. So there'll be a lot of plumbing things to figure out, which will be fun to sort of document and
That'll be
show
good.
people. Yeah.
It's nice to have one sump because in the end of the day, you only have to deal with one skimmer, one dosing system, all that other jazz, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, something funny that around that and what sort of gave me this, okay, let's just do a huge sump with some, was the fact that like having a big tank at home to maintain with no help, it's been a long time. Like the
hmm
only tanks I've had in my own house where like I was maintaining them by myself were pretty small, like literally like a beta tank or something.
hmm
I mean, I had a small pair of clownfish, I think for a good year and a half or 2 years. But that was technically, my girlfriend's tank, so she was like all about taking care of it.
yep,
And so yeah, I'm a little nervous having to like maintain a tank again, like all by myself. Um,
you
and
have to
so I
train your
wanna,
daughter as a little helper.
yeah. So I got the kids, which will be nice to
hmm
sort of to help out. And I work from home now, so it's a little bit easier.
hmm
Uh, you know, I'll be immersed in it all day, so it'll be nice to have that. I'll be able to build a water station. I have a room, which is cool.
That's big.
So yeah, that makes a huge difference. Got a big
So
basement.
part of this is because you're moving, right, to the new house.
Yes, exactly. So I've been living in an apartment since I've been here in Nashville. Finally got a house, so we move in at the end of the month.
hmm
And it's a nice little house, but it's got a huge finished basement. So the whole house, the bottom floor is basement, and it's
Nice.
finished. So I'm really looking forward to that, man. I have some crazy cool ideas. Just with that big space, there's so much
hmm
I can do. I'll have an exposed sump. The equipment will be exposed. I won't be so worried about keeping it all like buttoned up and tight. Equipment will be out, so it'll be easier to work on.
hmm
I'm excited for that,
Are you
definitely.
are you going to do kind of a pre-manufactured sump? Or are you going to make your own for this nice big multi-tank sump?
Well, it'll most likely be a custom sump. The big
hmm
one will be for sure.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm gonna do to start. I kind of want to get this tank going like real quick because I'm chomping at the bit.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll probably likely just get something on off the shelf type sump to begin with, little cube sump that fits nicely under it.
hmm
And then I'll plumb everything, union, so I can just swap it out. And that's, with the whole three different displays or multiple display ideas, like everything will just be unioned on and be able to easy plug right into the sump and just, flip flop it out.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the game plan. But super
S-
excited, man. Super excited. I'm
It
already
sound
like talking to my vendor friends about livestock and stuff. So
nice. Sounds like Robert investigates in the making with all these different systems.
What's that?
Robert Investigate series in the making with
Oh,
all these
Robert
different.
investigate. It's more like Robert trial and error.
Hey, it's pretty much the same thing, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right. But I just all in all, man, I really feel like with this big, move and change my life, I really feel like I'm getting to the point where I wanted to be. There's been some struggles over the last year. Moving your family across the country isn't easy,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, some major changes in my life, and so I finally feel like things are settling down, making good moves, and the fish tank is sort of like that cherry on top. It's like my life is all back together again the way I want it.
Moved, you're settled, then you get back into the hobbies more, which will be good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So excited for it.
Oops,
How
pretty
about you
awesome.
though? How about you, man? You've been super busy on your end.
My life is crazy these days. I work like 80 bazillion jobs, it feels like,
Yeah.
between real work and YouTube and everything else. So life is crazy. Getting the new tank set up. If anyone saw my excessive amounts of Instagram photos yesterday, I may have got two G5s on my tank right now. So I've
Yeah,
been
I
playing
saw.
with those.
Nice.
So pretty stoked.
Yeah.
I got a blue and a pro, so I got one of each to play
I
with and kind
wanted
of
to ask
compare and
you.
figure out which one I
Yeah,
like better. And so we'll see.
you posted the picture about the XR15s. You said you had
Yep.
3 generations. So, like,
I,
I
I
I
have
saw
I
you had the
have
diffusers. Oh, go ahead.
Yep. Okay. And so I got two Gen 4s
Uh-huh.
and I got a Gen 5 Blue and a Gen 5 Pro. So
Nice.
it's going to be fun to kind of compare them both and see how they work together on the same tank and, just play all the different stuff. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you gonna try to document it with some video work and stuff so everybody
yeah.
can see? Yeah.
Yeah, I've already been filming and playing and
Nice, nice.
filming around a bit. So,
Yeah, I'm excited to see, like, what you have to do to make them match, how, like, right out of the box, what they do to match, and, like, how drastically
mhm.
different they are. I'm excited for all that. And
Yep.
then the diffusers too, like, I see you have those on there, which are gonna probably blend it a little bit better,
Hmm.
but it'll just be interesting to see with and without and just how it all works.
Yeah, so it'll be good. So
Exciting.
I still have to play a lot more. There's probably at least a good another week of playing before I turn to a video, but got to
Yeah,
experiment lots. I got to learn lots before I can share it. So
gotcha.
that'll be
Yeah,
good.
yeah. How's the dosing pump working out, the Ecotech one?
So far so good. I
Yeah?
got it set
Did
up
you do the
for
water changes yet?
Yep. So right now I have it set up through Mobius just for like a one button water change.
Nice.
Derek, more G5 fun. Thanks, Derek. I'm 2 out of 4. I'm halfway
Yeah.
there.
Devin has all the G5s, so go knock on Devin's door if you
I
need
only have 2. I need all matching ones eventually. So yeah, with the Versa, I'm gonna schedule it later. Currently, I just have it set up for like a one button water change. So I just hit a button and then I'll do one.
Nice.
And I have it set up for. I'm just kind of curious what I set it up for now.
Is the water change like programming in there? Or did you have to like? Was it a lot of work to like
Oh,
program it yourself?
super duper easy. You're like, oh, create a scene. These two pumps, how much? They're 12,000 millimeters within an hour. So
Nice.
then I
Awesome.
literally open
Exciting.
the app, hit a button. There's 3 gallon water change done.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
but
Well,
later I'm probably gonna automate.
I'm excited,
Just
man, to get
yeah,
my hands on these things again. It's been a little while.
yes. No, they're sweet pumps and they're ultra precise. So digging them.
Yeah.
We'll
Is it
definitely do some
quiet?
more.
Quiet? I heard it's
Yep.
quiet. Yeah.
Lower speeds definitely. I mean, if I'm cranking it to do like a couple hundred mils a minute, you hear them. They're not loud. Like they're
Yeah.
quieter than the doses, but
Right.
at full speed, you hear them like meh, like the little like
Right.
sound running, but they're
I
still
got
pretty quiet. So
I got you.
that's
Gotcha.
good.
How long is your water change take?
Depends how much I do.
Well, do you have
Okay,
it scheduled, or are you just doing it like on demand?
I just push a button. I'm like, yeah, 3 gallon water change. Open the app, push a button, done.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I'm probably gonna change it to about a gallon and a half a day.
Yeah.
And then same thing, I'll let it do it over an hour or so. That way the pumps run slow and it's quiet and I don't even notice it. That's
Yep.
likely what I'll end up doing. But
I
I'm
like
just
the idea
experimenting.
of small daily ones.
Hmm.
Back in the freshwater days, you could do like a continuous drip to where it would
Yeah.
like constantly overflow out,
Hmm.
and that worked, man, for keeping big fish and keeping nutrient levels down. It definitely works.
Yeah, it's
Um,
basically the same
yeah,
thing. Just add
yeah,
salt first.
right, right. Well, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
problem is you can't do it with saltwater because it messes up salinity, and then um, yeah, you just have problems with evaporation.
Hmm.
But freshwater tanks, it works like a dream. You just
Yep.
have to plumb the drain on it to where it overflows out.
Hmm. Nope. Exactly. Um. Yeah. So I'm saying even at lower high speeds, you can hear the Versa. Yeah. I mean, it's not for the calcium reactor. It's running around 40 mils a minute, and it's pretty darn quiet.
Oh,
If I'm running at like 100 or 200, yes, you can hear it, but it's still quiet. It's quieter than the Kimura and the Dose, so it's the
nice.
quietest option for doing decent volume. Who is Rob? Robert.
Robert. I do like
Robert.
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 I work. Well, you want me to tell him? You want to tell him?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. My name is Robert, man. I work for Bulk Reef Supply. I manage social media. Yeah, I've been in the industry a long time. I've been working in the industry for 14 years now. So it'll be 14 years pretty soon here. I love fish, man. I love catching them. I love keeping them. and I'll be eating them.
So he's a avid addicted fisherman as well, hardcore into the reef keeping as well. He's been keeping fish for a long time.
It's true. I like growing
Yep.
coral. I guess I shouldn't say I'm such a fish nerd because I do love growing coral. That's a huge passion.
Mm-hmm.
But being away from my fish tank or not having one for a long time, I am super excited to
Get a tank again?
to have fish again, like to
Yeah.
keep fish. Like I was so gung ho on coral for years, and I'm still excited for it. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited to get some fish again. Excited to keep some fish. So
Nope, that'll be good. Not just out of the, what would you call it? The small skinny lake, skinny water.
oh,
The
the
skinny water fishing.
Yeah, the skinny water fishing. No, not the skinny water. There's actually on that note, there is some really cool fish. They have these things called creek darters,
Mm-hmm.
and they live in the creeks out here, and they're just gorgeous, man. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're little tiny freshwater fish, and they're just amazing colors on them. And I've caught a few out there, and it just blows me away. Like red and yellows and purples on them. There's a gnarly. It looks like a marine fish or a saltwater fish.
Little
In terms
local
of
creek tank.
yeah, how intense the colors are, and then they're kind of weird too, because like like most fish are, but like the tops of them are like a real natural sort of mottled color, where it's like when you're looking down on it, it's like oh, it's a tiny little fish. But when you pick
Mm-hmm.
it up and turn it over, you're like, "Geez!" Like, and I use them like I have like literally made fishing lures to mock the colors that I've seen on these fish.
Nice.
But yeah, it blew me away when I first started, seeing those things in the creeks. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's really cool. It's awesome to find these natural, crazy, vibrant things locally, or I mean,
Yeah,
anywhere
yeah,
really in the wild.
right. Yeah, I remember diving for the first time. It was in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and I was blown away how big they were. Like I got bit by
Mm-hmm.
a domino damsel. Well, bit a couple times. But I mean, the thing was like, where's the camera? Huge, huge. I mean, it
Yeah.
was like at least 12 inches from nose to tail. Like it was just a monster. It was a pair, and they had their little babies on their little algae rock down below. And that's why I was swimming over their algae rock, and I got between mom and dad and babies. And then that's when they started pecking at my back, and then they came into my face, and I just swam away. I swam quick and then watched them. But I was blown
Mm-hmm.
away at how big this stuff was because at that time I was 19, so I was still pretty green in the saltwater hobby, but still, like I had, I'd had my first saltwater tank by then and been around the fish long enough, and it just blew me away. The
Mm-hmm.
puffers were giant, like 2 feet long. Even the yellow tangs and stuff, like just blew me away at how big they were. And the colors obviously were super impressive when you're there in front of you, but the
Mm-hmm.
size was just something that was just completely jaw dropping to me for sure.
Yeah, it is, and it gives you perspective. Like a lot of people don't realize how big some of the fish that we can get. Like hippo tangs, they get up to 18 inches. Like some of these
Dude,
fish can get huge.
we should do this for a living because this is a great transition
It really, really is.
into our topic.
Yes, it is.
So on that note, responsible reef keeping,
Mm-hmm.
and
So
that's what we're going to talk about today.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things to consider is when you go buy these fish in the fish store, a lot of people are impulse buyers. Oh, that's pretty. I'll get it. Oh, look at that cute little tiny cowfish. Let me bring it home. Little do they know they can get like a couple feet. Like some of these fish can get huge, and you need to take that in account. You need to do a bit of research and make sure what you're buying you can actually take care of long term, because that's a big thing a lot of people never consider at first.
Yeah. I mean, we might as well talk about the elephant room, like the tang police.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody who doesn't know what the tang police are, tangs are a species of fish that just get big. Like they all get 12 plus inches. There's some that stay a little smaller, but they all get pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the aquarium trade, all of them are, let's just say, what, 2 to 4 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes even smaller. Let's just say I've seen little tiny blue hippos, so 1 to 4 inches. So it's,
Yep.
you go in the store, you look at this beautiful fish, and they're really impressive. And they live a long time. And so it could be easy to think like, well, I got this 20-gallon tank, man. I'm gonna put 2 in there. And so that's the misconception where, the tank police come out and they get mad at you for keeping these tanks in small tanks. And it's like, well, when it's 2 inches, it's okay. The fish is happy. But within 12 months, the fish is going to need a bigger place, and it's going to grow faster when you put it in a bigger tank for sure. And so that's what that's all about, is just plan to upgrade. Most of us do anyway, because we get addicted to this and we want to upgrade. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, is being responsible. Is when you buy that fish, like you're investing in it, and you're also accepting a responsibility that you're caring for its livelihood. And so just don't be that guy that doesn't,
Pretty much. Don't have a tang and a nano. Bad idea.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
As a
you
baby,
do it.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, you could do it for a little bit, but just understand within that amount of time, you're going to need a bigger tank. Plan for that bigger tank. or just bypass the fish. There's plenty of other fish that stay small. There's tons of them that are equally as cool.
Hmm.
The utilitarian aspect is tough. I mean, tanks do a good job, man. There's not many that can do what a tank can do,
Hmm.
especially a little school of tanks. But um, that's just something you take into account when you choose your tank size.
Yeah, basically.
Mm.
Now JCS 499 super chat. Thanks, JCS. I
What's
just
that?
laughed. He super chatted me $1.99 and in the comments
Oh,
put $5.99. And then he
oh,
sent another one for $4.99. Thank,
$1 million,
woohoo.
99 cents.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So when it comes to the tanks, like there is definitely smaller species. If you have a smaller tank, like bristle-toothed or coal tangs, like a lot of those guys will stay fairly small. So those are awesome candidates if you have a smaller tank. But if you have an average sized tank, you're upgrading later, you can get away with starting with a small fish, right? Personally, the biggest thing, like I don't really think about tank size for tanks. I think more about like length because they're very active. They like swimming room.
Yep.
So for me, like a 40 greeter versus I don't know which one's the breeder, but there's a tall and a wide one.
Yeah.
Like just that thing. Like you can have a really tall 90-gallon or you can have a really long 90-gallon, right?
Yeah.
I think
Generally, it's
length goes a long way.
4 foot. Like you'll want a 4 foot tank at minimum. But even with that, I mean, you're looking at just a couple years, and then it's best just to have the 6 foot tank. And that's
Hmm.
120 or 180. I can't remember what's the smallest 6 footer. I think you can get a 120 gallon 6 feet, not 180 for sure.
Yep. 186 feet. Yep. That's a great
Attaboy.
size. 6 foot's an amazing tank size. If you can do it, always go for the length.
Yeah.
Now, when we were talking about tank size, now fish, most people don't realize it, but fish can live a long time. Like
Oh,
they're
yeah.
likely going to outlive your cats, your dogs, all your other fish.
And
Or
sometimes even you.
yeah, even you.
Scary to think about, but it can happen.
It's true. Like I don't know if you can see in the background, but the Zerny sailfin tank in my tank, he's 10 years old already.
Yep.
Like still going strong. So I mean, I could still have him for another 10 years, right? You never know.
Yep. I think there was a Tang. I left in California, but her name was Precious, and that was 8 years. Yeah, 8 or 9 years old by the time when I left. I still get pictures this day because I
Oh, do
miss
you?
that fish. Yeah, I still get pictures, so it's nice. I actually got this week. I don't know if I shared it with you, but I have a friend in California that's been sort of seed banking some of my corals for me, and he's got some fish too. But
Mhm.
I saw a picture of this big fabia, and it's just like it almost so stupid. But it almost brought a tear to my eye, man. Like I miss this coral. Like I am so excited because it's like
Nice.
within reach. It's just like I'm gonna get that back. I can't wait to have you again. And so it's exciting. It really is exciting.
No, it's cool to get coral back that you had like years ago, right? You shared it. It's
Oh
out in the
man,
wild, and you can re-get it
yeah,
back. It's
yeah,
like your
yeah,
grandchildren's of your coral.
yeah. It's time for me to cash in on a number of favors. That's for sure.
Hmm.
Or a number of scratch my back, you scratch yours. Uh,
No,
I've given away so many frags over the years, and it's just super exciting.
no, that's pretty cool. It's nice to come full circle. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, in the chat, I was watched a few people talk about koi fish. Like they can live 100 years. Like
Oh yeah, I
there,
put that.
there's a koi pond place up behind my house. They have koi fish that are like 30 grand in there. Like it's crazy how old some of these
Yeah,
can be.
I mean the price is one
Crazy.
thing, but yeah, the amount of time. I remember there was one. I was pretty young, man. I was a teenager, and there's a pond store. I had a pond growing up, and so this is kind of what like got me into the whole aquarium world. Was I just had a pond growing up, so
Hmm.
would keep fishing there and kind of learned about the husbandry, everything. But there's a pond store. We went there. This lady, she had this big gold and white koi, and
Hmm.
like it liked people. It would like roll on its belly when you'd go in there, and she would let us feed it Cheerios for whatever reason. Um, and, yeah, and it was 100 years old. Like she had
Wow.
got it from an estate. Like she rescued it from an estate
Hmm.
that had that was around at the turn of the century. I mean, at 1900. Um, and this was probably okay. So I'm pretty old. So this was probably like 2001
Hmm.
when I saw this fish. So it was over 100 years old. I mean, it's crazy to think, fish that's that old and like it's right there, and it
Hmm.
was huge. It was giant. I mean, it was like definitely close to 3 feet long.
Huh. That's crazy, eh? It's
Yeah.
amazing to think 100 years old for fish.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah. What's a clownfish can live? I
They can
want to
live.
say 20 is like maximum.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't know what documented is like the longest living one. But I mean, just do you think a little clownfish like
I've
can
had
live
one of
that
mine
long?
for about 6 years now.
Yeah, yeah. I think captivity, like you're gonna see a little bit less than that. But
Hmm.
I mean, six
But
to 10 years probably is easy.
But it also depends, right? Like if your water's good, you keep it healthy. If you have proper nutrition, you're not overfeeding your fish. You
Yep.
know, if you overfeed your tank, you're going to pollute the tank, which makes it, more stressful, more toxic to the fish, right? So overfeeding without having a way to deal
Well,
with it can also cause trouble long term, right?
I mean, and there's a good thing in itself, it's like nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't eat McDonald's every day. I mean, we all know what happens when you do that. You wouldn't, like there's like, there's a ton of science behind like pet food, like dog and cat food. And, we know what happens when we feed our pets crappy food
Yep.
all the time. Like it's just not good for their health and it'll definitely reduce their overall lifespan. And so the same thing with your fish, like why would you feed your fish inexpensive flake food all day, every day?
Mm-hmm.
They need the variety, they need the nutrition. Naturally, they're going to get a variety of things. And so, yeah, they're no different. I mean, a fish is no different than any other pet. I was just talking to Terrence from Neptune Systems about this today. And, there's kind of like this, I don't want to say misconception, but it is a misconception. Like, there's like a hierarchy of animals, and furry little creatures, charismatic megafauna. Like we seem to cherish those more than fish. But then there's guys like us where it's like, every life is the same. There's nothing that's like
Mm-hmm.
better than the other. And so why would you neglect your fish tank? I shouldn't say neglect, but I mean, why would you not take care of it as well as you would take care of your dog and your cat?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't leave your cat or dog at home in 100-degree weather all weekend long while you're away, on a golf trip. And so you would, you protect your fish tank from those kind of things.
Nope, it's true.
Yeah.
So same thing when we're talking about food nutrition. I'm a big fan of doing variety too, like not just feeding the same thing every day. I like to mix it up.
Definitely.
So
And it's fun, man. It's fun.
yeah.
Like feeding fish. Ryan and Randy just did a live stream about fish nutrition a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, I made this comment. It's like, that's like the one time you connect with your fish. Like you
Yep.
literally are like physically connecting with them and everybody loves it. I don't know. I've never met a single person that is not fascinated with the feeding the fish. And the first thing that somebody new to it will ask you, can I feed them? Or like you like, hey, you want to feed them? Like super excited. Their eyes light up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my 3-year-old daughter who like has minimal exposure to aquariums, like she automatically wants to feed these things and get super excited. So
Mm-hmm.
there's something about that I'm not sure what it is. It's got to be some sort of like primal or just something there. Um, but it's fun to do, to feed them in different ways. Let them graze like tangs. It's fun to watch them graze. But if
Mm-hmm.
you don't give them the seaweed, they can't do it. So it's like you want to
Oh.
do that. Feed them the live foods. Feed them natural foods, or like things they would naturally get in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah.
it's true. Oh, there you go. So apparently Phil's clown's 26 years old, so going strong.
Damn, 26.
Yeah.
We gotta see a picture of that one. Phil, send us a picture of that, buddy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. What kind of clown is it? If he's there.
See if they reply. Yeah, even the nori. Like I think I've already thrown in 2 sheets into my tank today, but I also have like 5
Nice.
tanks in there.
I was gonna
6
say,
tanks,
man,
something like
you did an amazing fish transfer.
that. Thank you.
We're 100% success at this point?
Yeah, no, everyone that's in there is all happy, so it's good.
Nice, man. That's awesome. It's good.
Yeah, there's 3 yellows, which I was hoping those would work out, and so far so good. The first day they're a little like
Were they all together originally or no?
2 were and 1 was, or no, 1 was there and then 2 were together on a different tank.
Do you have any other of the what's it, Zebrasoma, right?
Yeah, so there is 3 yellows, a purple, a hippo, and the red sea Dejarni sailfin, whatever it's called.
That's different. I think
Yeah, so I think the purple is
Purple.
Zebrasoma? The
I don't
purple
know.
is, I think,
That's
isn't it?
what- yeah, I was gonna say the
I don't know.
purple and the yellows. I think are both,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. I
Yeah.
always go by the shape of their body. So you have the hippos, which obviously way different,
Yeah.
and the Zebrasomas, which are kind of that triangle,
Yeah.
and then like the weird ones, like you said, the cold tangs and the Desergini, the
Yeah,
sailfin.
exactly. So I think it is, but either way, I don't know. Everyone seems to be happy, get along now. One big thing is too is I also feed heavy. Now, Oscillator's clownfish, there you go, 26.
Nice.
If you have lots of fish, big thing too. If you have too small of a tank, they're gonna be stressed out. If you don't have enough caves and hiding spots, they're gonna be stressed out, right? If you're not feeding enough, they're gonna be stressed out. So it's just providing the right environment for everyone to kind of be happy and settle in together.
Oh, we could talk about aggression. So here's the thing.
Mhm.
We were talking about Zebrasoma. So with tangs, You generally speaking, it's looked down. You shouldn't mix. I think it's genus is what they are. Like you shouldn't mix
Mhm.
more like two fish of the same genus. Like generally speaking,
Mhm.
because they're aggressive, and so like you put two yellow tangs together, come from different places. A lot of times they'll be aggressive if they don't have the
Mhm.
room. And so that's exactly what we're talking about. So when you're building a fish tank, you're picking out your fish. Like be responsible in selecting them, and understand their temperament. Do the research to to find out if they're gonna be okay together, and then observe them. This is huge. So like it's not a black and white thing. um, Devin just told us he has 3 yellow
Mhm.
tanks together, but then the
Mhm.
next guy could try to, try tooth and nail day in and day out to try to put multiple yellows together, just can't get it done. Um, so just be responsible, and if
Mhm.
something like that does happen, do your best to, like, stop the aggression.
Yep.
Or I shouldn't say stop it, just pull 1 fish out because
Mhm.
it is tough to stop it, but
Mhm.
rearranging rock work, putting one in fishy jail, which is isolating them in a
Yep.
little, container for a little bit works. And then, like you said, keeping them well fed, man. I think food is like this huge understated thing about keeping fish healthy and
Huge.
happy to eat.
Huge.
Yeah, totally.
But you got to be able to export it, right? You got to be able to balance out those nutrients. Like my nitrates were definitely a little bit on the high side, which I'm starting to deal with, or my phosphates, sorry. But I've been shoveling in food, and I've had next to nothing to export other than my skimmer. So finally getting a refugium going. I don't even have a filter sock on there yet, so I'm still doing it.
Nice.
But part of the reason that this worked out is one, I have a 6 foot, 180 something gallon tank, which helps.
Yeah, lots
That,
lots of water there. In other
yep.
words, so dilution factor is big.
Yep. And I also added a lot of the fish around the same time. So no one had established territories yet. And that kind of helped quite a bit too.
Yeah,
If I was to add a fish, a couple months in of the same one, it'd be a lot more scrapping because they'd already have their territory, right? So that's another thing to consider.
definitely. How did you? So you obviously established some biofiltration before you did this
Yep.
transfer. What did you use? What did you do?
Okay. So prior to Christmas in December-ish, I had all my rock and all in a brew container,
Right.
heater, power head, all that.
I
Dumped in
remember
a
that.
bunch of the Brightwell Microbacter start XLM bacteria.
Oh, the start. That's what it was. We
Yeah.
talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I used the start. So that pre-cycled my rock. So within a week or two, all the rock is cycled, and then they were in that bin for probably 2 months. So I had the ammonia product that they make.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called Quick Cycle or Quick
Yep.
Start or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a bit of phosphates in it along with the ammonia. So I dose that to the container every week or two just to make sure I keep feeding it,
Right.
and then I just test it once in a while, like make sure it can process that 1 or 2 ppm of
You were
ammonia with
testing
it.
for nitrate,
Once it
or were
was
you testing?
cycled, I didn't.
Okay.
I would dose the ammonia. Once I know it's around 1.5,
And
two
then just check
ppm.
for ammonia.
Yep, and then next day is cut in half. Next day is gone. Right. So if it can process a couple ppm of ammonia within 48 hours, so I kind of, and before I added the fish, I kind of did that a little more often just to build up that army of bacteria, make sure it can
Sure.
process it.
Sure. That was smart to just like
Hmm.
gradually ramp it up, so you had like
Yep,
this. I don't want to say max capacity, but you were like
I
it
built
was
up the
well
army.
established. Yeah, you built
Yeah.
it up, and then it was like, okay, now it's time to put the fish in, put everything in the
Hmm.
tank. You did it all at once, basically, right?
Yep. And then once it was in the tank, same thing. The day before I added the fish, I also dumped in a ton more of that bacteria. So I
Right.
just made sure to really build up my bacteria army before adding the fish to it. That way I knew I wouldn't have any kind of cycle issues or anything happened afterwards.
So the moral of the story takeaway with this responsible activity is he planned ahead. That's what Devin did, was he planned
Hmm.
ahead. He knew he was getting all these fish. He planned months and months ahead to get
Hmm.
prepared for it. And look, 100% success. Like you
Yeah.
transferred how many fish into a brand new tank? Was it
Lots.
20 fish? 20 more than 20 fish?
There's a
Um,
lot.
yeah, so and that's something that no aquarium people would tell you to do, is like put
Hmm.
20 fish in a tank at one time. It's a huge no-no.
Hmm.
But if done the right way and whatnot, it can be done. So it's just a matter of educating yourself, doing your research, planning ahead,
Hmm.
and you can eliminate 90%. I shouldn't give out numbers, but you can eliminate a lot of the problems that, um, or frustrations that a lot of new hobbyists will run into, or things that people that turn people off about an aquarium, for sure.
Nope. Exactly. So
Education's huge.
that's the thing. I know a lot of people there's one comment in there on my video. They're like, "What? You added so many?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I
Yeah,
built the bacteria column."
yeah,
But at the end of the day, bacteria rules the world, right? If your bacteria can handle it, then you're good. And if you don't have the bacteria, then yeah, you definitely want to go slow. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of the bottle bacteria stuff these days because it just
yeah.
really
You know,
kickstarts everything.
there's something about that. Like, for the longest time, it was sort of a mystery. It was like,
Hmm.
okay, well, I understand the whole okay, if the ammonia's gone, nitrate's there, well, bacteria exists. Okay.
Hmm.
But it was very like sort of, I don't want to say hush hush, but there's just not a lot of information about how this bacteria works, the different strands, what they're doing in the tank. Like it seemed almost proprietary. There's just a couple products. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
talking early, like let's say pre 2000.
Yep.
There's a product Biospira was around, which was like a refrigerated one, and
Hmm.
there was a couple others that were like living bacteria that work instantly. But yeah, it's just come such a long way, and now we're using different types of bacteria to fight algae,
Hmm.
like physically clean up and break down waste in the tank, solve all kinds of problems. So it's pretty neat to where it's come and how I know there's some science behind this, but a lot of it's anecdotal evidence.
Hmm.
These people just trying different things and making observations, and then us as hobbyists just figuring out these solutions. It's really neat to see, to watch.
Yeah.
Like the evolution of it all.
Well, if you think about it, certain things like, inside your stomach, what breaks down food? Bacteria, right? What breaks down something outside on the ground outside? Bacteria. Like, it literally is what controls everything in our world. So
Yeah,
it makes sense.
the miniature overlords, man.
It's true. Taking
Miniature
over the
overlords.
world.
Yeah.
Bazillions of them. Probably my hand has thousands, hundreds of thousands
Right.
on them. Like, it's crazy. Okay. So, bacteria, use it, works well, makes your life easier. You can do a
And
lot of cool stuff with
trust
it.
it. The bacteria does its job. Trust it.
Oh, one other note is pick a brand and stick to it. You don't always want to be like putting in the bacteria soup from different brands, at least not when your tank's new, because sometimes they can fight with each other if they're different strains, or one may try and consume the other one, all the type of jazz. So pick a system, stick to that system rather than doing the bacteria soup, at least on a brand new tank before it's established.
Good advice. Good
Yep.
advice.
Okay, now other things for kind of being a responsible, sustainable, long-term,
Yeah.
successful reef
We've kind
keeper.
of we kind of bounced all over the place here.
Yeah, we do that. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. That's my life in a nutshell.
Yeah.
All right, where are we at? So we hit on food, we hit on educating yourself.
Uh,
Mhm.
Another big one, put lids on your tanks.
Oh yeah, lids, lids. There you go. This is all in the name of not killing fish. So a responsible fish keeper is do everything you can to provide a safe environment for these fish, and a
Yep.
lid is one of them. Why do
Hmm.
you say that? Because fish jump out,
Yes,
and
yes, they do.
I
Uh,
mean, well, go ahead, Devin.
yeah, fish are jumpers.
Yeah.
In the past, like my old triggerfish, that guy jumped out like 3 times. The lights flash, anything's food, out of the tank.
Yep.
Like there's certain fish, anthias or wrasses. There's a lot of those really active fish that
Dart
fish,
fish.
gone.
Gosh, man, I was
So,
obsessed with firefish early on.
mhm.
My first reef tank, second saltwater tank.
Yep.
And man, I probably bought 15 or 20 of these things. And like, it was just, I was so frustrated about it. And what I couldn't do. I'm like, I'm good at keeping fish. I can do this. Bodies, like I would never find bodies. And then sure enough, when I moved, yeah, there was a few.
Yeah, there's a crispy one behind my tank when I moved. I was
Yeah.
like, ah.
Yeah. I was pretty bummed when I was like, man, they were really jumping out of the tank the whole time. Because they
Hmm.
would just kind of like dwindle down. Like, and I would do them in batches. Like, I'd buy like 3. They'd have them
Hmm.
for a month, and they just kind of slowly dwindle away. But where are these fish going? And they were jumping, man.
Yep.
And keeping a metal highlight on the tank too, that was like an enclosed canopy, so
Hmm.
might have cooked a couple.
Well, also make sure your lid fits snugly, because if there's too much of a gap, it's amazing how they like egg crate. I've seen fish jump through egg crate
Oh,
on other
yeah,
people's
like
tanks.
the little tiny gaps.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why they have on these new screen kits. So the screen
Hmm.
lid kits, you'll see, you can do cutouts for like your filters and tubing, and I mean it's important to do that, man, because they will get through. They will get through those little tiny gaps. It's just like in your sump. Have you ever had a fish go in your overflow? Like I
Uh,
had a wrasse that was notorious chorus wrasse, and it's not a
hmm.
small fish. I mean, when they're little, but
Yep.
this guy was maybe 4 or 5 inches, and I don't know how he would get through. And it was a Durso. Like, guy was going down a
Hmm.
little 1 inch Durso.
Oh wow.
It's like, how did you get down this thing? And it was constant. Like, I'd have to pull him out of there constantly.
Hmm.
And it's pretty amazing what they can do.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And
But
you think the odds is like, is that accident? I mean, they're
mhm.
not sitting there like staring up at the screen net, like, okay, I see that hole.
They
I'm
must
gonna
though.
go for
Like
it.
they
I
must
don't know,
somehow
man.
can see it and calculate it. I don't know.
I
It
have a
amazes me.
hard time believing that that's the case. I mean, could very well be, but like from what I've seen and know, it's just all it's just the luck of the draw. It's just accidental, but
Yeah,
who
fair.
knows? Who knows?
But another personal pro tip with screens, black mesh is the way to go. At least for me, because you don't notice it. The clear mesh reflects light, and then it just glows and stands out to me. Where black is very stealthy, so
Yep.
I'm a big fan of the
That's the
black.
biggest downfall with the lids is they are annoying. They get in your way for maintenance. But
Hmm.
these new screen lid kits are super, super nice. They're not bulky. They're lightweight. They're easy to move. Like
Yep.
people will say like, "Oh, I don't want to deal with it. I always put my hands in my tank and stuff." They've got some new accessories that you'll
Light,
see.
easy.
What's that? Oh yeah, they're
They're light. They're
lightweight.
easy.
Yeah, you can just grab them, pull them on and off. But you can even like create feeding ports. So
Mm.
there's there's some different accessories I've seen that are you can create like a feeding port in it. You can do like a reverse cutout.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there's a guy out there that DIY'd a bow front one from the flat screen kits by like notching the whole.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
You could do
you
reef
can get it done.
style and put a auto feeder in your return chamber, so it just comes up through your pumps. You don't even need to open the top.
There you go.
So
I don't know about that. I mean, do you find that you're getting a lot? I mean, obviously you've calculated how much food and whatnot you're dumping
mhm.
in, but are you think you're getting a lot of waste from that or no?
No. So I haven't done it on the new tank. The prior tank I did, but the one big thing was put a power head in that chamber, so it didn't
Yeah,
let the food settle. It kept it suspended until it got sucked in and it fired into the tank, and the fish were like, "Oh, yum, hop, gone."
nice. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it was good. A couple of people asking about. Someone asked about tops and oxygen exchange. Yeah, if you mesh top, not an issue. If you have a glass top, it'll cut down your condensation like huge on how much evaporation you get. But yes, it will also cut down your oxygen exchange. So you want to make sure you have a skimmer or something else that's providing that gas exchange in your tank.
Generally speaking, sump skimmer is going to be fine with a glass
Hmm.
top, so you can do it. But heat isn't so much of an issue as it used to be when we were, before we had LED lights and DC pumps.
Hmm.
But it does trap heat too. The glass
Hmm.
will sort of trap it in there. So something to consider if you're running like 79.9 or something right on the edge there. Putting a glass top on it will probably kick you up over 80.
Yep.
Um, but they are nice for evaporation. If you're in a place where it's super dry and you're evaporating constantly,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say 100% no to it, but um, it's just one of those things where it's almost a personal preference, the way it
Yep.
looks and
No,
what it
that's
does
fair.
for you.
But I mean, it does make a massive difference in evaporation. Like I got like the little old school red sea tank on one side of my desk,
Yep.
and it evaporates like nothing. I didn't bother putting auto top off on there because it's
Hmm.
literally like 90% contained, and this is not an issue, which is kind of nice. So, I mean, there is definitely an advantage to that aspect of it. So
Sure.
I don't know. Sadly, cannot dump food in my return. I have a manifold. This is true. If you have a manifold, wouldn't recommend it because you'll just be feeding your reactors some
Oh
pellets or
yeah,
whatever
I
else.
see.
So
I see what you mean. Yeah, you do it
mhm.
like, yeah. I guess you wouldn't be able to do it. I'm thinking of like an injection port. Like you put
Hmm.
that in line after your manifold, and you could like plug in a 1/4 inch line on like an IV or something, and just beep, beep, like meter it
Let
in
it
there.
suck it in.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Well,
My buddy's a nurse, so he tells me all these stories. So I'm like thinking of like an IV port or something you could just stick in there.
I have actually been debating this. Okay, so on the Versas, I have the 4-pack, and 3 of them are in use: 2 water change, 1 calcium reactor. I still have 1 I haven't used yet. So I've been toying with the idea of how I can auto feed a food, either using like one of those little like pop can fridges inside my stand, and
Hmm.
have like a little bottle of food that I can suck through and
Hmm.
push it in, or doing something. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to see, or the, like
Do a
not.
live culture, man. Do this like from a live culture. I'm super excited. So
Mm-hmm.
I really want to get this tank to a level where I can do like a daily phyto feed.
Yep.
So I want to do probably going to be like softies, macroalgae, gorgonians, and do something like that. Maybe some non-photosynthetic stuff. I want some of the weird stuff in this first tank.
Nice.
I really the
Define weird.
last yeah. I like this. I built this tank that I was just obsessed with. It was a tiny little peninsula tank.
Mm-hmm.
Had macro in it, softies, like the court jester, rainforties goby, um, and then some dragonettes, pipefish, that kind of stuff. I just think it's just awesome to see that little like ecosystem feeding itself, the biodiversity you can get with the pods. We have the availability of like different pod species now, different macroalgae species. You have all
Mm-hmm.
the stuff from the Caribbean, which is just awesome. So I'm excited for that, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
do a daily Fido feed.
Nice.
Get it to that point to where I can pump in a little bit every day to feed the microorganisms,
Mm-hmm.
which will then feed the fish and see if we can get those fat dragonettes, man.
Nice.
I want that belly just bulging, and it's just like for both sides. You don't see dragonettes like that a lot until you've been around it. And I mean, if those things have a pod population that to sustain them, They
Mm-hmm.
will grow and they will get big and they will be beautiful. The
Yep.
colors is really neat.
I have one in my tank actually. I love them. I got
Yeah,
the tie-dye looking one in there. Like they're
the
awesome.
psychedelic, the
Yeah.
like the blue. Yeah, yeah, they're gorgeous fish, man. They're one of like the
Mm-hmm.
first fish. They're like kind of like a poster fish for reef tanks. I mean, since Finding Nemo, it's kind of been the blue tang and the clownfish. But prior to that, man, I think it was the psychedelic mandarin that like really sucked me in. Like those
Mm-hmm.
are some pretty impressive colors and fin shapes, and even the way they swim and act, like just sort of perching around. They're just different. They're really neat, fascinating.
No, they really are cool. Speaking of pod cultures, I actually do have two going in my closet.
Pod cultures,
Yep,
nice. What
copepods.
kind of pods?
Apex pods and copepods. So I added shy of 100,000 apex pods to my tank, and I threw a little bit in a container to culture them.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was good. So I did
How's
that,
it?
and
Is
same.
it working? Is it growing? Is it
Oh
alive?
yeah,
How's it doing?
no, they're doing good. I should
That's cool.
actually throw them under the microscope one day and just see how they're doing for fun. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that would be neat. That'd be
every once in a while I'll just take a little bit out, dump them in the tank, and then feed them some more phyto, and just kind of keep them going. And
okay. So that's what you're doing. You're like just manually feeding them
yeah,
out and changing the water out.
yeah, I haven't. Phyto's a little more work to culture because you got to be super sterile. I just haven't got
Right,
around to it yet. I just
right.
haven't had the time. But
Are you just feeding them the? What do you like? What kind of phyto are you feeding them?
reef nutrition's phyto.
Okay, so the
So I got a
bottle.
bottle of that. So I just give them a little squirt every few days. But
You
eventually
don't
I'll
have to.
get
You
that
don't have to
going.
do it daily, or you don't think you do?
Nah,
Huh.
it's you go by the color of the water, right? You want to keep it as if it gets too light, then you know they've ate it all. So I
Yeah.
just kind of look at the color of the water, then just judgment call.
How fast are you? Like, are nitrates getting to a point where you gotta like swap the water out?
In the pod cultures,
Mm-hmm.
never tested it. I just every once in a while I'm like bloop, take out like 500 mils, dump it in the tank, put a bunch of new pods in the tank, and
I got
then
you. Yeah. Well, hey man, it's working.
feed it back up. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I'm just curious. It's, with this whole like desire to do live Fido, I'm just trying to think of like how far I can get with it.
Okay, so a while back I've started a project, and I need to go back to it. I was trying to do like a perpetual system where I would feed tank water to the phytoplankton culture, and then again use that to feed the pod. So it was like a self-sustained. Well, at level one was like phytoplankton culture that will just continuously feed the tank itself,
Hmm.
and it worked for a while. Then eventually it crashed, and I think it was because it wasn't perfectly sterile using tank water.
Yeah.
So if you want to do this experiment, you should, because I've been thinking about it for like a year and haven't went back to it. But take like a UV and really slowly pump the water from the tank through the UV into your culture.
Oh, to feed it
Right.
out,
So then
yeah.
you're going to have sterile water going into it to
Right.
replenish your culture. And then you can let, say you put in 500 mils, you can just let
Yeah.
that 500 mils overflow out of the tank, your culture into your tank. So you're getting, every other day you're doing that.
Yeah. I guess the only thing that I would like, you're not. So UV works, like on a single bypass. So you just need a strong UV. So with a single bypass,
But
you're
not
not like.
even. Just pump it slowly. It has tons of contact time.
That was the thing
Yeah.
is like the repeated contact with it,
Hmm.
the appropriate wattage, and then the flow rate, obviously.
But it'd be super slow. Anything in there would be like taken out, right? If you have like a dosing pump just slowly pumping up through it and do it, anything in there is going to be gone. So I think that'd be this is one day I'm going to try it when I find like a good deal on a tiny UV.
Do it. No, it's a great idea. It'd be cool.
You should try it. Then you could have hands off perpetual thing.
Maybe
You
we
may
could do like parallel like phyto experiments and cultures and stuff, and we could mail each other stuff like cultures
yeah,
from Canada down to Tennessee. It'd be fun.
perfect. Let's do it. We'll get her going. I don't know, but I think that'd be a cool way because it'd be like perpetual, ongoing, self-sustaining kind of
Yeah.
a culture.
And then the next thing is like you get good at phyto, you get good at pods.
Free live food.
Well, free live food, but now you can like keep those clown babies alive. Like all you gotta do is pull them out of the tank, or anything, or dragonets. It's possible.
My
So, yeah.
bang guys right now. I watched them a couple days ago. I watched them do the whole egg
Oh.
transfer. So my male has just got a
That's
big
so
mouthful
cool.
of eggs. So it's really cool.
Yeah,
So
that is so cool to see. That's so neat, man. Are they in the tank with everything else?
they are. So I'm
Oh yeah.
thinking because it's about it's about a month, right? That they hold
Mhm.
the egg. So
Good.
when there's a few days left, I'm tempted to maybe pop them out and throw them in a different tank for a couple days
Say
until
the
they
cardinals,
hatch.
you can catch them with your hands, basically. So.
Well, actually, I have the Red Sea tank. That's nothing in it but zoas right now. So maybe even if I throw them in there.
Well, no, I mean catch them out of your big
Oh
tank.
yeah,
Should
yeah,
be easy.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be cool, man. I'd love to see that. Just to, I don't know, just to watch it happen. It's
I
cool.
know. But if I don't know. I have to look at my cell phone photos and see what day that was because it's roughly a month. And if they still have the eggs, they haven't spit them out, they haven't ate them. Maybe I'll try throwing them in my other tank and then see if they hatch. Could be cool if they did.
No, it'd be really neat to do it.
And then I
And
can just feed
I
them
mean,
pods.
I was gonna say you've got the live food, so
Just
you're
dump it
there,
in.
man. You're
Keep
there.
on dumping it
Yeah.
in. All right. So breeding fish. That's a whole nother level of sustainability. So this is a
Yeah.
good segue
Sure.
because
Segue. There we go.
captive bred fish,
Capture redfish.
awesome way to go. They're
Sure.
going to be hardier. You don't have to worry about any sketchy practices for catching them. Like I don't know how often it happens anymore, but I know before they'd use something like cyanide, which basically like temporarily knocks the fish out so they can easily collect it. I know the sustainable guys will do it with a net, but you know there's still sketchy stuff that happens out there. And do you really want a fish that has somewhat poison? No, you don't, right? You want as healthy as you possibly can, which is going to give it the best chance of living long term in your system.
Yeah, give it a head start,
Yep.
and it's not to say like only source captive bred stuff. No, there is sustainably wild collected animals. They're just
Mm-hmm.
fine. Um, the sort of the bummer part of it is it's
You don't know.
almost yeah, you just don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
any responsible local fish store owner is going to know, or at least try their very best to source fish from a sustainable place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell us just ask. And
Mm-hmm.
if you get any sort of answer that you feel uncomfortable about, it's probably best just to go, move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
And specifically ask them like, well, do you know how this fish is collected or where it's from?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those answers, just the way that they respond and way they tell you, are going to give you a good idea of whether they're really dedicated, um, or if they're just trying to make a quick buck. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the fish store owners, it's one thing like we don't exist without local fish store owners. I mean, the hobby that's like the root. It's really what drives this force forward is people physically going in there, getting excited about the fish, being
Mm-hmm.
able to pick out what they want. I mean, that's what the local fish store is all about.
Yep.
But there are some bad seeds or bad apples out there, man. So, um, and I hate to say this, but just be careful. Especially
Mm-hmm.
when you're new and you just are green and don't have all of the ability to identify the fish and know the requirements of what the fish need and stuff. Just do your research and create a relationship that you can sort of trust this fish store owner because sometimes you'll get some bad advice. They'll sell you a fish that you just can't keep,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you want to avoid that at all costs.
Well,
Because yeah.
one of the big things is just wild caught fish are a lot of time they're pickier eaters, and there's some of them if you can't get them to eat, he's going to slowly waste away, right? Or if you get one that's capture bred, it's been raised its whole life on prepared foods, you throw in some pellets or whatever, it's going to eat it right away, right? Versus you trying to fight constantly to do it. Like,
Yep.
and a lot of time it's okay. Here's a $60 wild caught fish or an $80 captive bred fish. That extra $20 is worth it to not have the hassle,
Oh,
to know doesn't have any diseases or parasites, like anything that could happen, right?
yeah.
So.
No, yeah, and that's a perfect example. Like captive bred, you've got so many benefits to that. And the
Mm-hmm.
cool thing is it's like growing so fast. Like every year we have over 10, 15 new species of
Mm-hmm.
captive bred fish. Super cool companies. What's it? We got Biota, you have
Yep.
ORA, Sea and Reef. Give me some more.
Poma Labs.
Poma Labs, and they're just doing all these really experimental. Like now we have dwarf angels that are captive bred. What's it? What's
Well, and
the
there's starting to be cool like hybrids of fish too.
Conspiculatus, right?
Yep.
Wasn't Conspiculatus done last year or
Yep. The
2 years ago?
conspict angels.
Um, yeah, so it's just growing, and it's just gonna only get bigger if we support that. And the only
Mm-hmm.
way to support it is buy captive bred fish from these companies that
Yep.
care to do it and give us really cool fish. The tangs were sort of a new one, yellow tangs in recent
Mm-hmm.
years, and it's like,
Now they got hippos and
how
they got all
cool is
kinds of
that?
stuff coming.
Yeah, like the classic, most poster child fish in the hobby to be 100% sustainable would just be awesome. Just be super,
Yep.
super cool. It takes pressure away from wild reefs. It will live longer and happier and healthier in your fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
And
Easier to
it
take care of.
easier to take care of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it perpetuates a responsible hobby that nobody can look down upon.
Exactly. So, all good reasons.
Yes, yes, all
Yep.
all good reasons, and we don't want to scare you away from wild caught fish because you're gonna buy them. You're gonna come
Mm-hmm.
across it, but just understand the whole supply chain. There's lots of information online about the way that all of this works.
Mm-hmm.
What's it, Australia, obviously USA, Hawaii, um, and I think like Red Sea in that area, like all of those areas have very uh, responsible practices, and the regulation does exist. So when fish come from those places, you know you can be pretty confident it was collected in a sustainable way. But
Hmm.
then there's other places where it's just a lack of regulation is why this happens, or very difficult to enforce regulation. So it's just ignored by the people that collect the fish. Um, and that's kind of the dark side of stuff. No want to get into too much, but
Hmm.
just educate yourself about it, and that's half the battle. You
Hmm.
know.
Exactly. So another thing about the whole responsible side of it is if you do have a fish that's getting too big, do not release it back into the. If you live on the beach, do not put it back
Oh,
in the
yeah,
wild.
yeah, that was what we were talking about. There's a crazy story in California,
Hmm.
which where I'm originally from, and they had this thing called the Southern California Calerpa Action Team, SCAT,
Hmm.
and they would literally come check fish stores and go into your home if you were like known to be harboring Calerpa. So
Really?
Calerpa's, yeah, like this Calerpa is this fast growing macroalgae. There's a number of different species. And California has this very sensitive, ecosystem right off the coast. There's, cold water reefs and, just all kinds of, of animals that live in that tidal zone. So the story goes, some saltwater aquarius, got some Calerpa in the coastal waters, and it just decimated the local population, or excuse me, just decimated the local kelp forests. So what
Hmm.
happens is baby kelp gets shaded out by macroalgae, and it can't grow. Uh, a lot of things can't eat the macroalgae, so it was just a big downfall for the coastal ecosystem down there. And so this CLRP action team was tasked with removing it, going out and like scrubbing the rocks in the ocean,
Hmm.
like getting that stuff off. And they pretty much eradicated it. I think
Hmm.
there might be a little bit left, but it was a success story, conservation success. Kelp
Nice.
forests are growing back, and when you see that kelp forest growing back, it's like starfish come back, urchins come back, otters come back.
Hmm.
It's just a whole chain of things that happen from one stupid little like Clerpa caught in the ocean.
That's crazy.
And so don't be the guy that puts Clerpa in the ocean, um, or where it's not supposed to be. So yeah, don't
Hmm.
release your fish. I mean, this is a huge thing with freshwater fish. I think more over saltwater
Hmm.
because yeah, it's just I don't know, not a lot. Not everybody lives by an ocean, but everybody's got a local park, lake, or river or
Yeah,
something.
it's true.
And yeah, goldfish. I mean, we've all seen goldfish. Well, in the city park lake. What are those red-eared sliders? The little turtles.
Hmm.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And so just educate yourself on these things and don't release them. Try to find homes if you
Hmm.
can't keep them. Go back to the fish store. A lot of fish stores understand this situation you're in and will
They'll
help you
take stuff
out, or at
back.
least yeah, they'll take them back. I mean, sometimes they'll even
Hmm.
take them back for credit.
Yeah.
Get something smaller. This goes back to establishing a good relationship with your fish store.
Hmm.
You've got 50-gallon tank, but you have this tang. You buy the tang, you grow it to 4 inches. Like, well, if you have a good relationship with your fish store owner, you can go back, swap it out for a smaller one. And you've
Hmm.
still got your tang. He gets a nice, big, pretty fish for a big tank. And
Yep.
it's a win win for everybody. All the fish are happy and healthy. So,
It's a
yeah,
good reason to support your local store, so they like you and they will
totally.
do, and they will help you
Totally.
out
Yeah.
back.
Support your local fish stores, man. You can't, I mean, none of this would
Hmm.
happen without them. They work extra hard to stay afloat and
Hmm.
to be successful. But just understand that most of the good ones are doing it because of passion. It's
It's true.
not because they want to make a bunch of money. It's all because they love the fish,
No.
just like you do. So
Nope. 100%. All right, man. So don't put your fish back in the wild. Actually, I've never done it, but where I live locally, there's like a restaurant with a couple 1,000-gallon cylinder tank. I always tell people it's too big. I'm like, go give it to them. Maybe we'll trade you for dinner. Who knows?
the
But
cylinder tank.
yeah, but it's like huge. It's a couple
Yeah,
thousand
I
gallons. So I'm
gotcha.
like,
You know what blows me away about those tanks is how thick the acrylic is.
yeah, it's
It's like
huge.
2 inches thick, man. It's
It's
like
crazy.
it's like
Bulletproof.
I was gonna say, yeah. The only time I've ever seen it outside of a fish tank is, in downtown LA at some convenience store where they'll have like bulletproof glass, uh,
You're like,
between
I
you
could put
and the
some big
teller.
fish in behind that counter.
Yeah, yeah. I just look at it. I was like, my gosh, man, that is some thick, thick acrylic or plexi. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's amazing though. Like I don't know. It has to be thick. It's light. You can buff it. I don't know. I've never had acrylic. My jellyfish tank had it, but I've always been afraid of scratches, so I haven't done it.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword. Glass
Yep.
tank, acrylic sump. That's kind of
Yep.
like the golden combo. There's pluses and minuses to each. Acrylic's nice. One thing people don't think about a lot is it's an insulator. So
Hmm.
you're gonna spend less money on heating and cooling.
On
Tank,
acrylic?
yeah,
I
acrylics,
did not know this.
plastics, insulator. Glass is the same temperature as the water, the air around it, so it fluctuates
Hmm.
much quicker than plastic will. It's
Yep.
probably a minimal difference, but hey, I mean, 1 degree can really, save you so much a year in electricity costs.
Hmm. True.
Um, the clarity, like with glass, you get refraction and
Hmm.
color. With acrylic, you don't. So
Yep.
you have like a pretty true to what's really behind there. I mean, that viewing pane is pretty true.
Hmm.
Um, but then you've got all the downside. It's soft, it scratches.
Yeah.
It'll bow if it's not built, with the
Thick
proper
enough.
specs. Yeah.
If it's not 2-inch acrylic.
It's easy. Oh, it's easy. This is another one to win for acrylic is it's easy to work on. Like,
Hmm.
you can glue it back together if you have to. You
True.
can you can drill it
Hmm.
pretty easily, with minimal risk of damaging it. I mean, you still got to be careful and go slow and everything, but it definitely is a little bit easier to modify and work on.
Hmm.
That's why sumps are so nice made out of acrylic. They're lightweight. You don't have to worry as much about banging stuff around down there. That's what
Hmm.
drives me crazy with glass sumps is I've probably broken multiple glass sumps.
Really? How the
Yeah,
heck
man.
what are you doing to break them?
Just messing with the pump or pulling it out, and next thing you know, I crack a baffle, and then she's like, "Oh, great." And then, next thing you know, I've never done it to where it was like it leaked,
Yeah.
but like I broke a brace at one point in time, and I broke a baffle at another point in time, and like I was done with glass sumps at that. I mean, you're maintaining like, and say your pump goes out, you got to pull it out, so you're frustrated with the cords.
Hmm.
You're pulling it out, you want to clean it, or you're putting it back up in.
Fair.
I probably wasn't being careful enough, but you want to get the tank going, and so sometimes
Okay.
yeah,
I have broken a baffle on a sump, but that was with a hammer by force, and it took me
I
like
remember you
it
told me,
took.
I was like, "What do you do with a hammer in your sump? There's a
Be-
glass sump."
okay. So this is why I'm amazed that you tell me that you broke it by accident. I literally smacked that thing 20 times to break it. This is after me fighting with a razor blade and dental floss and everything
Oh,
possible for
you're
hours. I
getting the
was like two
baffle out.
hours in. Finally, I'm like, screw it. Just gonna break it. But I got the other baffles out fine. But this one was so tight, I could not get out for the life of me. And so I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna break it.
You think it was just the size of the baffle was just cut a little bit bigger and it just was
Well,
pinched
I
in
think it was
there?
just wedged in between the glass so tight, and there was I couldn't even squeeze like dental floss between the two panes of glass. It was so tight. But
Wow.
anyways, I had a fight. I was amazed at how hard it was to break that baffle. Like I should use a glass breaker, not a hammer. But retrospect,
Yeah.
that's why I'm amazed that you broke one by accident. But again, this is like quarter inch, like a pretty thick, heavy duty sump. So it depends.
Yeah. I
Like
couldn't
the
tell you what these ones were
yeah,
that I broke, but they were less than quarter inch.
yeah, like it was like props to Waterbox because they're a heavy duty sump. Like, that thing was
Yep.
built tough. The
Yeah.
tank
The
was built like a tank.
tank was built like a tank.
Yep. Okay, so we talked about sustainable wild versus captive bred fish, but how about coral?
Coral. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another good road to go down. I want to talk about equipment too, but we'll get there next.
Okay, sounds good.
Um, So coral, well, the beauty of the reef aquarium industry is like frags, man. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody, once you're past a certain point, you put coral in your tank, they grow, you trim them down, and you create what we call frags, fragments of the coral. Those little pieces of coral will grow into big, new, beautiful corals, and you can trade them with your friends. And that's like one of the coolest things about this hobby is trading
Mm-hmm.
frags and doing that sort of thing. So there's a natural like sustainability to what we do as it is, but there is a lot of wild collected as well as cultured corals.
Mm-hmm.
Educate yourself, know the difference. I would say buy frags that are accustomed to captivity whenever possible.
Yep.
Uh, they grow quicker, or I shouldn't say they grow quicker, but they're already acclimated to aquarium life. You'll have a much better chance of success, far less risk of pests.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, when they're coming from a system like that, a lot of times, so in the ocean, you've got wild collected and you've got farmed or maricultured corals. So
Mm-hmm.
when they're farmed, they're like all in the same place, and it's nice because there's not any impact on wild reefs, and they can selectively grow the coral and do different things. But sometimes you're gonna have a higher propensity for pests in those corals because they're all together. There's a ton of food for whatever it is, or a ton of habitat for whatever it is to want to infest
Mm-hmm.
that. So you can kind of see those things, even more so than you would a wild coral, where there's like actual predators for that parasite.
Mm-hmm.
So that's idea behind that. And not to say that mariculture is bad, and not to say wild caught is bad. That's not what we're saying. Just there's a difference, and you know, educate yourself on knowing the difference and what you're getting yourself into when you do get that, because it's everybody makes mistakes, and it's kind of like fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. You know what I mean? Like learn from your mistakes.
Eventually,
Um,
you'll learn to dip your corals.
yes, dip your corals. There's a huge one.
Hmm.
Is uh, we've all done it, and I hate to be like such a hypocrite with this thing, but it's just like quarantining your fish, and it's just like dipping corals. Like
Yep.
the reason you dip corals is to get rid of the parasites, so they don't go kill all the other corals that you've worked so hard for your tank. The
Hmm.
reason that you quarantine fish is so they don't bring disease in and kill all the other fish that you've worked so hard to keep alive.
Hmm.
And that just in itself is a responsible way to keep a fish tank, because you're reducing the risk of loss. Uh, yeah, the dunk and pray or whatever they call it, the float and pray method.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think everybody goes through it and does it at one point in time, but just educate yourself on a quarantine tank,
Yep.
dipping coral, why you do it, how to do it,
Hmm.
and practice it as much as possible.
Yeah.
I know you don't always have the ability to do it. Um, but if you're like Devin here and you take an old all-in-one tank and you get yourself a quarantine that's always running,
Hmm.
it's much harder to neglect the step because you have the tank.
Hmm.
It's healthy. It's easy to do.
Yeah.
On top
Now,
of that, if you're buying captive bred fish and you're buying fragged corals from places where you trust it, like you're just
mhm,
all that much less of a risk of bringing this stuff into your tank.
exactly. Now, if this was my plan that went out the window,
Hmm.
but I was going to turn my fish quarantine into a coral quarantine, and any new coral, just throw it in there for like 30 days, make sure it's all good. Then my buddy shut down his tank, and I bought all his corals, so now the tank is full of zoas. So
Nice.
that didn't happen, but it turned into a zoa tank all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Looks awesome, but
So
there goes my quarantine tank.
we kind of hit on this earlier, but
Mhm.
what do you think about quarantine corals? This is kind of one that's like a
It's a
debated topic, so to speak.
it's a good idea. At the very least, I'd want to dip every new coral that
Yeah.
comes in.
Yeah.
If one had the space, I think it's a great idea to do it.
Mhm.
The only problem is you need to have another system, basically, right?
Yeah.
You need a decent light. You need, your pump with flow. A little tiny all at once probably fine. But the only thing is, for a coral or two, you're probably fine off water volume. But if you had too much, then you got to worry about making sure your dosing is correct, right?
Yep.
So that's the
That's
only thing. It is
the
another
downside.
tiny system to maintain.
Yep.
So,
Much more work than like this is what is a quarantine tank would just be a very simple fish only tank.
mhm,
Um, you can keep a biofilter in there. A lot of guys just keep biofiltration in their display sump, and then when they buy a new fish, they're just ready to go. You fill up a fish tank or fill up a tank. You put a heater in it,
mhm,
a power head pump or power filter. Drop the bio in there. You drop the fish in there, and
mhm.
you've got a sort of an insta tank. You isolate the fish for 30, 60 days. Observe it for anything, and then when you don't see anything, toss it in your display. Or if you
You need,
do, it's away from your display and you can medicate it and treat it and
yeah,
fix the problem. In your
yep,
display, if something happens, that fish is much
harder
lower
to
chance
catch.
of success and harder to catch. So
Hmm.
you're gonna it's much harder to medicate because you can't use all the strong medications. And then if you try to catch it, that'll stress it out, further putting it at risk for infections.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, quarantine's a great way to go, man. You avoid all sorts
Yep.
of problems with it.
Hmm. All right, Mr. Salty Tank, what do you think of Paul B's method of not quarantining, etc.? So I don't quite know the specific method you speak of, but
What did you say?
I don't know. What do you think of Paul B's method of
Oh,
not quarantining? Okay, so here's the thing.
not familiar.
I don't know his specific method, but not quarantining. You can likely get away with it for a while, but it will catch up with you eventually. I didn't quarantine for years.
Yeah, I'm like
I,
8 years in, man, before I ever saw a quarantine
yep.
tank or even thought about having one. So
Clownfish, sorry, super chat. Lewis, clownfish with lepto in quarantine. Hopeless will infect other fish. What is lepto?
Leptocerus is a coral.
That's a coral. Yeah. Is you sure it's lepto, Lewis? Double check.
Maybe a
Um,
broken L. I don't know.
oh. So yeah, define what you mean by lepto. So I got away for 5 or 6 years without quarantining, and I had a bunch of fish in a temporary tank, and someone was importing some stuff. Good deal on a fish. I added it to that system as my only tank at the time, wiped out all the fish in that tank.
Oof, nightmare.
Yeah, so that was a nightmare situation, and that's because I did one fish without quarantining. I got away for 5 or 6 years without doing it, and then boom, one fish took out all my other fish. So you can get lucky, you can get away, but stuff can happen. You don't
Yeah.
know. It's Russian roulette. You're playing, Russian roulette every time you add a new fish to the tank.
And the thing about this is, sorry, Devin. You
Yep.
good?
No. So go ahead.
All right. So I talked to a lot of different fish keepers, a lot of hobbyists from the very first day they even saw saltwater fish all the way through. I've been in the hobby for 20 years and grow coral out the wazoo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everybody has the same story with quarantine. It's either I've never had a problem when I throw everything in my tank, or I've killed a lot of fish because of
Mm-hmm.
one infected individual fish. I've killed some very special fish to me, and that person never goes without a quarantine.
Yep.
But the guy that doesn't have a quarantine is always medicating, always asking for advice on, well, what's wrong with this or what's going there,
Mm-hmm.
and just has yet to experience. It's almost like it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Has yet to experience the complete tank die off of fish because of an infection. And not to say that it will
Mm-hmm.
happen to everybody. It just
It can.
that's the common story.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we've told you this and you know this,
Mm-hmm.
don't be that guy.
So, okay. So prior to this, I always would, I wouldn't really order fish online. I'd be in the store. I would watch it for a while, make sure it's eating. I'm in there for like half an hour staring at the fish, making sure it looks healthy and there's no signs.
Yep.
And that worked well for me for many, many years. The one fish I added still looked healthy, but it's also someone ordered it from a wholesaler, got them a bag of fish. It looked fine. All was good until 2 weeks later. So stuff can definitely happen. I mean, ideally, if you get fish, ask your local fish store to quarantine it for you. Or sometimes, they'll hold it for you for 3 weeks,
Oh,
4 weeks, right? And then, they have it for a month. And, if a month later, if it's not showing shine still, you're probably fine, right?
that's something that I'm seeing recently, kind of in the mainstream about fish is
Mm-hmm.
like pre-quarantined fish. I love it. I think it's great. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got in this hobby, it wasn't even a thing.
Yep.
Um, but there's companies now that you're going to pay more for the
Mm-hmm.
fish, but that fish is been quarantined in a sterile environment with the person, with the retailer that you're going to buy it from for however long, 30, 60,
Mm-hmm.
90 days, sometimes longer, and is like guaranteed not to have diseases.
Yep.
And I mean, if you can find a good source of people that would do that for you, whether it's your
Mm-hmm.
local store or an online retailer, there's a couple of them popping up and they're actually advertising like quarantine fish,
Yep.
pay the double. It's well worth it
It
especially
is.
if you're not quarantining yourself. And think about it this way too, like those guys are pros at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years and I still get nervous
Mm-hmm.
if something needs to be quarantined or I get a coral pest.
Well, okay. So if it's a brand new tank, you eat your first 4 or 5 fish, maybe it's not as worried. But if your tank's been up for 5 or 6 years and it's full of stuff, think of all the stuff you're putting at risk, right? So the longer your system's up, the more of a gamble you're taking of every single edition, right? Because you're
Mm.
potentially putting all the fish you already have at danger. I did do a good stream with kind of Aaron and Humblefish a month or two ago. So if you guys haven't watch that one. He's like the pro on quarantining and treating fish diseases.
Nice. Did you say it
This
was
tank,
humble fish?
yeah,
Okay.
he has his own forum, Humblefish forum.
Where is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you just Google Humblefish, it'll come up.
Humble, like
Yep,
humble.
humble.fish. There you go.
Got it.
But yeah, so did a really awesome stream with him and Aaron a little while ago, and since then I actually quarantined the fish going to the new tank.
Oh boy.
I
Oh boy.
know, for the first time ever.
Good
So
job.
I've been extra responsible with the new tank. But yeah, so same thing. So I have always had mixed opinions. Like I don't necessarily want to treat or do something with a fish that has no signs, because I also think that stresses them out to an extent.
Sure.
So I've always been kind of on the fence, and this is the first time I've actually done full quarantines on stuff. But yeah, really awesome resource. So if you haven't watched it, check out that stream or check out the forum if you want to look on anything on treating diseases, because that's honestly probably your best source online.
Is that forums?
Yeah, either the
Yeah.
humble.fish forum or go watch that video, or do both.
Oh, I see. I got you.
Yeah, take your pick.
Perfect. Yeah, and this kind of goes to, so the longer you have your tank alive, the more you've got
Mm-hmm.
invested in it, uh, all the more reason to quarantine and dip your coral.
Yeah.
But the same goes for equipment, man.
Mm-hmm.
So Why would you buy, inferior equipment to protect thousands and thousands of dollars worth of animals?
Because
You
you don't want to spend $200 when you can buy a China version for 35 bucks.
Yeah, so we'll see, and you're gonna buy 4 of those in the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's true.
so with reef keeping, we all know it's not an inexpensive hobby,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of those things where you just have to come to terms with it, and if you can't afford it, you can't afford it, because you definitely want to buy good equipment up front or the first time around, because you will get frustrated. You could potentially put the animals' lives at risk. Um, or
Mm-hmm.
just you'll plain end up spending more money because you got to buy multiples, by
Mm-hmm.
buying equipment that's not right for the job or just not well built.
Yep.
So the best thing you can do when it comes to equipment is buy the good stuff up front, or at least something that you're confident and comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
will get the job done sufficiently. If you don't mind buying a new pump every year, then fine, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna be damn sure you've got another pump sitting in the closet at any one point in time, because the one that's in your sump could, you know,
Bite the
go out at
dust
any
and.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Something else to think about is inferior, or like not inferior, um, stuff that's not well made
Mm-hmm.
can not only put your fish tank at risk, but can put you at risk because it
Well,
can be fire hazards.
I've heard of that with the black boxes. Like I only
Mhm.
had one short term,
Yep.
so I can't really say. But I've had lots of people say they've had them short out or smoke and who knows what else, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's just one of those things. I don't know.
uh, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So buy good equipment, man. It's just good because it protects your tank. You're gonna have a much better experience. Uh, the the failure rate in this hobby is huge, and it's something that, I mean, there's a big, at BRS, it's a big focus, on success. Like, the more success out there, like, the better it is for everybody. The industry grows, the fish are happier, the more captive breeding we can do, the cooler the corals get. It's just all of this, it's all based on education and having success and enjoying your aquarium. So all of these things that we do, are kind of driven towards that. Is like, we just want you to be successful, with your fish tank and keep the things alive and happy. Um, well, let's. Then the next obvious evolution is, a controller.
This is true.
Protected by Apex, man. Neptune Systems Apex is, an aquarium control and monitor system where you can control your equipment, but you can also monitor your equipment with power monitoring, and then you can monitor all your tank params. The coolest thing about it is it will let you know on your smartphone when stuff goes wrong, and then you can either fix it, or you can get in your car and drive home and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
um, so one of the best things you do for your tank, once you have a controller, it's pretty difficult to run a tank without one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, the cost is, yeah, like, that's the biggest thing with the controller, is like the cost, or the gateway to entry is substantial, but if you really compare it to, like, let's just say, other pets, I mean, what's a vet bill, or a couple vet bills. You feed your dog, good quality bag of dog food's what, 40, $50, some
Mm-hmm.
as much as 70, I think, in certain cases, like, big 40-pound bag. Um, and you're going through that every couple months. So, put it on that level, just like we talked about earlier, is, your fish are your pets, just like your cat and your dog. And so why don't we look at them the same way and protect them the same way? We
Mm-hmm.
should. We do.
Yeah.
People that succeed, that's their attitude, and that's the way
Mm-hmm.
that they approach their tank. You see these beautiful tanks online with coral growing at the top, and they're just ginormous and beautiful and everything. Um, they care a lot about those animals, just like they would any other pet.
Yep.
They're probably protecting it with some sort of controller, and nice equipment.
Yeah. So I get asked all the time, do
Yep.
you need a controller? No, you don't need it. Um, is it beneficial? Yes. Biggest thing for me is the automation part. But like if my heater gets stuck
Oh
on,
yeah,
it
I
will
didn't
turn
even
it
mention.
off for me. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So part of it's being alerted if something happens, right? So that you can deal with it. The other half of it is if something happens, the controller can deal with it for you.
Yeah.
Now it's
We got
also
fail safes and fallbacks, man.
this is a bit of a double-edged sword though on this one. So I don't think that you should have everything 100% relied on the controller. I like to see that kind of double systems where, so
Yep.
for instance, I have, like on my big tank, I got the little BRS heater controller plugged into my Apex, so that if the Apex failed, maybe it gets stuck on, then the BRS controller is doing it. Or if the BRS controller failed, then the Apex can take it over, right? It's still that kind of double levels of
Explain that a little
redundancy.
bit better. So
Okay, so so one tank I got an Inkbird, the other one I got the BRS controller on there. And if my heater failed on, for instance, I actually have the titanium heaters as I have a controller. But
yeah,
so say one of those heater controllers failed, then the Apex could turn off power to the heater controller,
because
right?
it's plugged into it.
Yep.
Because the controller's
Or
plugged into
yeah,
the
so
Apex. Yeah.
now if I just had my heater plugged directly to Apex turning on and off, what if that outlet buggers up and gets stuck on? Then the heater controller can do it. So it's kind of like I always like to try and make two levels of redundancy.
Because both the Apex has a thermometer in it
Yep.
monitoring the temperature,
Mm-hmm.
and so does the BRS heater controller.
It
And
does.
so, if one fails to recognize the temperature's getting low and turns on, or vice versa is getting high and turns off,
Mm-hmm.
the other one is there to cut the power and ensure that you don't get yourself into a
Yeah.
situation where things are at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just that extra layer of protection a controller gives you. Um, it's just a really good
It's
idea. It
it really is.
makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then the automation, like Devin said, is you can automate God, all kinds of things. You can automate everything. You got your lights turn on and off. You can automate a water change. You can automate feeding. You can automate your flow. You at a push of a button, you can turn pumps off and reduce the power head flow rate, so you can feed your tank, and then it'll
Mm-hmm.
automatically turn back on in 15-20 minutes. And then beyond that, you can program all of these really cool fancy fail safes and
Mm-hmm.
fallbacks, that, like, you know if this happens, then turn this off or turn this on. um
Mm-hmm.
God, give me a good example of something like that.
Well, if your return pump's off,
There you
turn
go.
off your skimmer. That way it
Yep.
doesn't overflow, right?
There you go. Perfect. You return so your feed hold, you put your feed hold on, turns your return pump off, turns your power heads off, or reduces their speed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's going to happen is the sump is going to rise in water. So if you left your skimmer on, it would overflow
Yeah,
and it'd just be
exactly.
super frustrating. So if you were to do that all manually, now you've got to go unplug your skimmer.
Now you can push one button, everything does its thing, rather than this off, that view mode, right?
Right.
So, do you need it? No. All these things, yes, because they're just going to prevent little issues that could come up. Quick shout out, K-Town Reefer, 1399 super chat. Thanks for the great stream. Thank you for the super chat, and you're welcome.
Rock and roll.
All right. There's another comment a minute ago
Mhm.
that some people, will have cheap equipment fail. Others will be running stuff for years and have issues. Like 100%. It is Russian roulette. Like Jabo is one of the super popular cheap brands. I've used tons of Jabo return pumps, issue free. I've used the power heads and I've had many die on me. So it's all Russian roulette.
But do we like to play Russian roulette with someone's
Not
life?
not when you have
Somebody's
thousands of
life.
dollars of corals and fish
Right.
that you have had for years.
Yeah.
So I know, exactly, right? So it also depends on your personality. I am the type of person that will want the fancy stuff eventually, and I will upgrade 20 times until I get it. So if I would have just bought it in the beginning, I probably would have saved a bunch of money. So that's my personality, though,
There's some
right?
truth to that. So, when we say nice equipment, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely, like, within the range of acceptable nice equipment, there is a range. Like, you have good, better, and best, or,
Yeah.
like, like,
Mm-hmm.
there is, based on price, like, you've got the top tier, top of the line, Royal exclusive protein skimmers, um, uh, you know, uh, I don't know, I forgot the name of it, but anyway,
There's many.
like the Red Dragon pumps that
Mm-hmm.
come with them. And then you've got, you have like, you've got like your Reef Octopus Varios
Mm-hmm.
pump.
Yeah.
Still gives you some amazing features. It works awesome. I would recommend this pump to pretty much anybody that asks me for a return pump.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit better price range than something like that.
Yeah.
So within the range of good quality equipment, there
Mm-hmm.
is still
A
affordable.
range.
Yeah, there's
Mm-hmm.
still a range. Yeah. So don't think that it's like ultimately, okay, I need to buy the most expensive one because Robert said buy nice equipment
Mm-hmm.
and I'll have success. It's not, still do your research, educate yourself, talk to people that have experience with these things. Um, that's a big one, to get out there and
Yeah.
talk to people.
Jess Moses had a good point. I feel like customer service is key when buying equipment. 100%.
Totally.
If the company is going to stand by and support it, that's something we're all pay a little bit extra for. Because, like, you have a power supply or, a controller that dies, they'll send you a new one.
Yeah, things happen, man. You're putting electronics in water. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, you know, when you step
Yeah.
back and think about it, you're doing something that's kind of like, I don't want to say stupid, but like, you're doing something that's like, it's considered dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting a bunch of power centralized around this big tank of water that's moistures everywhere. These things happen, and so educating yourself, setting the fish tank up to
Mm-hmm.
avoid all those problems, the fail safes, and
Yep.
then buying quality equipment will eliminate just a ton of those risks that you're putting upon yourself in your home.
Speaking of fail safes, heater controller, battery backup for a power head. Two most
Yes,
important things.
battery backup. We didn't touch on that one.
We did
So,
not.
uh,
For
wait,
personally,
you go with battery backup.
power head, battery backup, essential, which I'm
Mhm,
now looking at myself kicking. I still got to get it done on my big tank.
mhm.
Um, but power goes out. Most important thing is having flow and oxygen exchange in the tank, right? That's what's going to keep everything alive and breathing. Without it, they're going to suck up all that oxygen, within a couple hours, depending on your water volume to fish ratio, right? I got a lot of fish, probably won't be very long. So having just a single power head on a battery backup is going to keep the surface moving. It's going to keep that gas exchange happening and keep everything alive. So battery backup, I think, is very important. You can buy one, you can DIY one. I've done a couple of videos on how to DIY one, and I actually might even DIY one for my new tank. So maybe there'll be another video soon. But it's a good way to do it. Okay, sorry, Robert, I cut you off.
Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah. Do you guys see battery? Do you guys see battery backups better than a generator that can run the tank fully? If you have a generator, I mean, power to you, right? If everything's running, that's even better. However, most generators, unless you got like a crazy fancy one, you got to be at home to do it, where a battery will just kick on its own. So that's the difference, right? Battery can just kick on and do its thing. A generator, usually you got to be there unless you got some fancy transfer switch, and then you're getting some pretty swanky couple grand generators.
I'm sorry, Devin. I got like 5 text messages and one was my wife. So sorry, but
Yep.
everything's okay. I just had to read it. So I apologize, everybody. I stepped away for a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you talking about? Switches?
Oh yeah, so with generators, because
Oh,
they were
yeah,
asking battery backup versus generator. Generator,
sure.
if you can run everything on your tank, I mean, not gonna miss a beat. You're
Do
all
it.
good.
Yeah.
Bat-
Um,
Battery's cheaper for most people. I mean, I DIY'd my battery backup for like $40. Like you can definitely do it on the
really?
budget.
What'd you
Oh,
do?
yeah.
Just
Um,
like a UPS type thing or what?
yeah. Actually, where's my
Yeah.
box? Because I actually have a bunch of wires here.
Nice.
Battery float charge
Yeah,
controller.
nice.
Your own sealed lead acid batteries.
Yeah. And that's the one that like it'll switch it. Like when power goes out, it switches over to the battery itself, but it'll run off the wall constantly.
So yeah, Toonsy makes one that
That
will
was the one I was
cut
going to talk
over.
about. That was the first battery backup I
Yep.
ever did. Was that hardwired Tinsy one, man? That was awesome.
Yeah, if you have some basic electronics, you can do something very similar with the relay,
Hmm.
to do your own.
You
But
just go buy
now,
like a motorcycle battery, a little DC battery, and you hook it up with the electronics that come or Tunsy gives you, and
mhm,
you
hook it up.
build your own battery.
Yeah, but
I
I
think
mean,
they have batteries too. Like they actually have batteries they sell with them, but I think you could buy like different size batteries as long as electronics are all right and match up.
mhm. I haven't actually done this yet, but I've been thinking about it. I have 400 watts of solar panels on the side of my deck that power all the landscape lighting. Completely overkill. Reef dude spirit. But I've been debating if I pipe a wire over to the tank and use that for my power head. So it's like massive battery bank of like couple hundred amp hours I could run my power head. So that might happen. It's either
Yeah,
that or I bought two 18 amp hour ones a while back,
nice.
which might be on there. So one of the two.
Did
One
you
way would be good though.
you went through the reason like why you keep power heads going during a power
Yes.
outage because that keeps
Yes.
everything alive.
Yep.
Oxygenates the tank. The fastest thing, what's going to kill a fish in a power outage is lack of oxygen because the
Hmm.
fish are breathing, but there's no
Yep.
oxygen getting back in that water. So within an hour, depending on how many fish you have,
Hmm.
they're going to deplete all that oxygen and then, they'll croak because they suffocate. So the reason you have power heads keeps everything oxygenated and it doesn't take a lot of power to move the water or to oxygenate it. So a lot of times power heads will naturally, like ones that are, the vortex, like they'll cut down, I think 40% of whatever the set speed is. It'll reduce the speed so it maximizes the battery life, but it's still
Hmm.
moving enough water to get the oxygenation going. During the power outage and keep you alive longer. So it'll maximize that battery downtime. Uh, but
Exactly.
generators, yeah, generators. That's kind of like the ultimate solution because yeah, you can run a ton of stuff off of them.
Mhm.
And you know, they've got different power sources. You have like, I think you have propane generators. They've got you know, just the natural gas ones, and then
Mhm.
like we can't forget solar, man. Like
Yeah.
I mean, this is not new, but kind of new for us. Like, there's a few tanks that I've seen in different projects I've seen that are like solar powered, but like, you know,
Mhm.
everybody knows somebody that's got, you know, solar panels on their roof, and the story of like, oh yeah, I sell electricity back to the government
Mhm.
or the municipality. So,
Yeah.
I think that's just really cool, and I would love to someday to build a tank on something like that where it's just like,
Mhm.
oh no, that's my fish tank panel, and that just goes out,
Yeah.
own bank of batteries, it's like dedicated for it, or just a smaller bank of battery that's affordable and
Mhm.
just powers the power heads or the pumps.
Yep.
Let's say even the return and the power heads, because
Well,
now you can like, you know, operate the filtration as well for days on end. You know.
mhm. Exactly. So, I don't know, it'd be cool. I like
Yep.
it.
Yep.
But,
There's a so something on that. There's a guy in California. I
mhm.
talk about him. His name's Steve Garrett.
Yep.
Garrett's Acropolis. He has an outdoor coral farm. Coolest thing I've
Yeah.
ever seen in my life.
Oh, cool.
It's these huge runs of coral. Yeah, look it up. Garrett's Acropolis. Acropolis. Super awesome dude. Super humble. He's part of the Southern California Marine Aquarium Society.
Mhm.
Um, beautiful, beautiful corals. He's been doing this for longer than I have. I think 20 plus years. And he has an almost carbon negative footprint.
Huh.
Like he's running thousands and thousands of gallons. I mean, he still makes, you know, uses electricity, but for how much water he's got in his
Mhm.
backyard, it's pretty darn amazing what he does. He's got solar in it, but
Yeah.
he also like the way he heats his tank is with a household water heater.
Mhm.
And he's like built this like
Like a big loop through it? Heat exchanger type of
well,
deal?
he built a heat exchanger, yeah. So
Mhm.
he passes heated water um, you know, with natural gas.
Yeah.
So it's no, you know, no electricity. Well, there's the pump.
Yeah.
Passes it through the heat exchanger, which
Mhm.
is, you know, submerged into the sump or little heater chamber he's got underground, and then he runs the pipes underground.
Yeah.
So you've got the natural insulation there.
Mhm.
Um, just some really cool stuff. I mean, I if you look on his website, he's got some information about it. It's a little dated and whatnot, but you can still see the pictures and understand some of
Mhm.
what he does there. And it's just it blew me away at what could actually be done. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you think about the first thing I would think about of building a system like that is like, man, I don't know if I can afford electricity. Like that's just a lot of power. Even with LED lights, or
Mhm.
well, shoot, his is outside. He has no lights.
There you go. Can't
You
get
know what
cheaper
I
than
mean?
that.
Yeah, you can't get cheaper than that, but you got your pumps, your heaters, all kinds of stuff. You know, and when you have pumps in a tank of that size, like
Mhm.
they're not these little, you know, 30, 40 watt pump. Like they're big pumps, you know.
Yeah.
And so it stacks up quick.
Mhm. No, it definitely does.
Just
But,
remember.
at least for me, heating is would be the bigger expense where I am.
Well, yeah, of
So,
course. You live in Iceland.
it's not that bad. The window's open in front of me. But,
I'm still getting used to cold weather, man. Okay, like
yeah,
I
alright.
grew up in a place where it's like 70 degrees year round, and
Yeah,
so
fair
now
enough.
I'm in a place like getting all mad because it's 40 degrees in the
Whew.
middle of February.
Got a hoodie on today.
Yeah, and then also like going to this is the funny part is like I'm sure they're sick of hearing this at the BRS headquarters, but you know I travel up
Mhm.
to Minnesota, um, you know every few months for meetings and whatnot, and like gosh, I mean it's so hard for me, man. Like
Mhm.
there was a one in the December, so I went back for the Christmas party in December, and then we had some
Mhm.
meetings, and I had a whole extra bag of jackets, man. Like I was staying for a week. And, like, I literally called and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have to check another bag, so, you know, I'm sending another charge." It's just like,
Here
oh,
my
man, I was so embarrassed, and then
here's my
people
bag of hand warmers and
yeah, like, I'm
extra
in the
layers.
office, I'm inside at my desk with, like, a fur-lined hoodie on, and, here she comes, oh, it was, it was the accounting lady, and she comes and was like, "So did you stay warm enough? Did you get all your jackets here?" She's like I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." I'm like and then I think to myself, like, I'm counting my layers. I was like 4 layers inside with a coat on. I mean, it was 70 degrees inside, but I was just so terrified of getting cold when I would, you know, go outside.
You one of those
Just
heated
so tough
jackets where you
different.
just have a battery and push a button. It's like,
Man, it's bad. Like, even my friends out here, like, I bring hand warmers when we go fish early in the morning, and I'll, like, shove them down in my waders, and I'm like, I got them in my pocket. I've got, like, 4. So there's 1 in each pocket, 1 in each boot. Slowly getting used to it. It's like a threshold shift thing where it's like,
mhm,
I go to Minnesota, and then Tennessee's not so bad when I come back.
Mhm.
But then, like, after a few months, it's like then I go back, and then it's just a little bit better when I come back home. So if I keep that up, I think for like the 3rd or 4th year,
You'll
it's
eventually
not
acclimate
yeah,
yourself
I'll
to
acclimate
your new
myself and it
city.
won't be so bad. So thanks for listening to that stupid story,
No
guys.
problem. Well, just think if we can acclimate fish in like an hour and you take a couple years, we'll get you in there eventually.
Yeah, there we go. Responsible Robert keeping.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Oh man.
good.
Devin, I think we got to call it, buddy. You
Yeah,
got anything else to talk about?
nah, I think we're doing pretty good. We're on to the random now, and we've been at it for like an hour and a half. So,
Yeah, man, I gotta go give my kids some love here and get some food in my belly.
solid plan. Everyone that joined today, thanks guys for joining us on our random responsible reef keeping rabbit holes.
Yes,
Hope you guys
thank
learned
you.
something. If you did, hit that like button. You need to subscribe. Robert, thank you, sir, for coming on.
Yeah. Hey guys, Ask BRS TV Facebook group. Go join it. Talk to me. I'm there every day.
Perfect. I'm gonna come bug
We
you on
want to
there
see you.
later.
Yeah, dude.
It'll be
Do
good.
it. Do
Nope.
it. All right.
Awesome. Okay, thanks
Thank.
guys.
Yep.
Happy
Thank you,
Wednesday.
Devin. Bye
Okay,
bye.
thanks, Robert. Bye.